I'm not going to talk about my day job very much, though these two worlds sort of do cross over quite a bit. In my day job, I solve problems. I work on a lot of social media projects for my clients at the agency. But today I'm going to focus on sort of what I've been doing in my other time, and that's building a vertical social networking site for pilots. It's called myTransponder, and it's been sort of a passion project of mine for the last 9 months. What I want to do today is give you a little bit of a peek into what I've learned over that 9 months as we've developed and built this social media utility. Why did I even get here is the first question that I get a lot. Why did you even decide to do this? And one of the things that I started looking at the beginning of this last year was this idea of work-life balance. What is the balance between what you do professionally and what you do personally? And so what I wanted to do is look at what smart people were talking about in this subject. And the smart people were saying that work-life balance doesn't always work. We really do have this stress caused by the fact that we don't necessarily integrate what we love to do and what we do for a living. I don't have that problem anymore. Because what I've been striving for the last year is really this idea of work-life integration. Stuart Friedman at the Wharton School talks about work-life integration as being really the key to being happier about what you do and how you spend your time and how you spend your week. And he's done this research that really has sort of shown the path for how you can integrate what you do and what your passions are. Also, Tim Ferriss, the author of The 4-Hour Workweek, really talks about this idea of lifestyle design. So cognitive dissonance really is a fancy word for what causes us stress. Cognitive dissonance is the idea that if you try to hold two separate ideas in your head at once, you're going to have stress. And let me show you how that sort of works. For most of us, we are going to start with the domain of ourself. So we start with me. Then there's work, other than me. Then there's the domain of home. And everything else, let's call that community. And for most of us, those things are sort of kept separate. They're kept at arm's length, and we try to keep them, balanced. There's the 80-hour work week plus the demands of the home, and that's frustrating to people. And so what happens is you end up frustrated. What if we could do it a different way? What if we could bring these things together, better integrate sort of where our passions are with what we do? So maybe it looks something like this. This could be better. So I started thinking about this. It's the beginning of the year, new fresh start. I started thinking, where are my passions? What are these domains for me personally? And again, this is going to be the first thing that I'm going to talk about is absolutely universal. Whether it's aviation, whether it's Legos, whether it's cigars, whatever your passion is, these are universal ideas about sort of sitting down and mapping what those passions are. For me, the first thing that I put down was my passion for the internet. I've been working in the business for 14 years. I love technology. I'm the guy with the iPhone. And so what I did is I said, okay, that's absolutely a passion. My other passion is flying. I've been flying since I was 16 years old. I really enjoy it. I fly both in a volunteer capacity as well as for fun and for business. So yeah, I'm going to try to find maybe a place where those two domains can overlap. And then finally, in the last few years of my career, I was a media guy. So I started identifying sort of the unmet needs of the business. And so thinking about that a little bit, I started figuring, where do those things come together? Where is the sweet spot? Where's the overlap where I can find a place where integration can really happen? So this is where the deep thinking sort of led me to. And it makes me ask the question, now what? What do I do knowing that I have a passion for aviation, I work in the internet space, I've got this experience. How can I put these things together? Well, when you're asking yourself those kinds of questions, don't start with this one. Lots of marketers get themselves in trouble by starting with the question, wouldn't it be great if? They start, everyone gets in the room, there's a whiteboard, it's blank, and the question they ask is, wouldn't it be great if? Marketers who start with this come up with some silly ideas. How many really silly ideas do we all come across in a week? Most of the time, the ideas that come from this space, wouldn't it be great if, are doomed to failure. I'm going to suggest that you start with this question. Isn't it great that? Define an audience, find insight, and answer the question, isn't it great that? And if you ask that question, the ideas that come from that, the features and functionalities that you build into an application that are mapped to real-world behaviors are often much more compelling than the first one. So the folks at Razorfish, really smart folks, they came up with a checklist that we used. Pilots love checklists. And the first thing is find an unmet need. This is obvious. Now, you can't understand what the needs of an audience are if you don't know what the audience is. Now, Facebook, I mean, their audience is what? Everybody? I'm not that ambitious. So what I decided was I was going to define a specific audience. I wasn't going to try to boil the ocean. Next is invent. If there's an unmet need, maybe you can build something that meets it. Get out there and go beta. It's like voting in Chicago. Go beta early and often. Iterate. Get out there with something that's worth knocking around and worth critiquing, worth playing with. Get insight. The great thing about new media is we can measure everything. So pay attention. Pay attention to the real behaviors that people exhibit when they're working with your application so that you can go out there and make it better. Find out what works and do more. So you can evolve, you can build value, not based on some business plan that's going to be outdated the moment you hit print, but really just based on the needs of this audience that you've defined. So pilots, let me think now. Well, first of all, I am a pilot, so I knew this audience. And I did lots of interviews with pilots all over the country, flying all kinds of different aircraft and different kinds of jobs, and just sort of started building some insight. And kind of summed it up this way is, first of all, they like to talk about themselves. Here I am. And so let's build an application that enables that. Sound like a plan. They're social animals. From when they first meet in their early days of training and they move from job to job, airline to airline, what have you, they like to keep in touch. Well, what if we could help them do that? And then finally, they like to share their knowledge. Whether it's a flight instructor or a crewmate, there's this tribal knowledge about airplanes and airports, what's the best hotel to stay at, and they share this on their own. We're not creating some kind of new behavior. This is what I wrote on a napkin. Next-gen buzzword compliant Web 2.0 Ajaxy mashup social networking site for pilots. That's what I want to build. The reaction to this? WTF. But what do you mean you don't understand it? So we had to start thinking about sort of shorthand for this. How about Facebook for pilots? Yeah, I get that. So we started talking about building social applications specifically for this niche audience. And we really started having to think about what we needed to do to translate this big idea into something we could actually build. Talked to pilots all over the country, had all kinds of requests for features and functions, and it just got very, very big and very, very unfocused. So we started thinking about, well, you know what? We're just going to build it for us. We're going to build something that's cool. Because if you focus in on something that you will love, probability is that other people will love it too. So here's my audience. Stefan, Rick, a couple guys I fly with. These are the guys that I built myTransponder for. If they liked it, chances are that other people would like it too. It simplified it. It focused us. It made it manageable. Bill Cosby once said, "I don't know the key to success, but the key to failure is trying to please everybody." So I stopped worrying about trying to please everybody, and I just decided to build something that these two would like. I started thinking a lot about the ideas of social objects. What's a social object? A social object is data. It's a data set that is something that you can share, something that you can contribute to. Whether it's a Facebook profile or a YouTube video, it's something that you can share and something you can contribute to. So I started looking at the behaviors, I started looking at the needs of this audience, and I started thinking about what are the social objects that they needed. Well, first of all, there's this profile for a pilot. Okay, where do you fly? What aircraft do you fly? What ratings do you have? All that stuff that, well, Facebook doesn't ask about. We don't care about what your zodiac sign is. We're much more interested in what equipment do you fly. So we decided to take all the data around a pilot, his history, his experience, and capture that in a social object. The next one was the airplane, specific to a tail number. Who flies that airplane? What equipment does it have? Where is it based? Let's capture all that information. And finally, a trip. A pilot and an airplane goes from airport A to airport B. Wouldn't it be great if we could capture that information and share that information? If I'm planning a trip, the site could let my friends know that I'm going to be flying from Chicago to St. Louis. And then my friends could comment, "Hey, I know a good place to eat when you get there." Or, "How about I'd like to come along?" I say, "That's fine, just help pay for the gas." So sharing these things, these social objects, really becomes important. And this is where sort of the big idea for myTransponder comes from, is the idea of connecting these things and sharing them and giving people access to all the tribal knowledge that we all have locked up, but pushing it out there. So there I was, mid-year, writing code, building this, and I came across this quote. And I thought, wow, this really needs to be something that people who want to do this need to understand. If you're not totally embarrassed by your launch, then you've launched too late. If you've waited until all the features are there, all the functionality are there, then chances are you're no longer relevant to the idea that you first set out to accomplish. So get out there, code, build, deploy, get out there and let people play with it, let people help you make it better. Every time we get a comment, whether it's positive, whether it's negative, it's a gift from our beta testers to us because it means that we can make this application more useful to them. So this is where we ended up. This is myTransponder. It's a social networking site for pilots. It's in private beta. You do need an invite to join the site today. We have a few hundred people in our beta test. We showed up to Oshkosh, the big air show. It's the most busiest airport in the world for 1 week. It's like Sturgis for pilots. And we started talking about myTransponder. Was it ready? Absolutely not. Was it finished? Are you kidding? But it had sort of that basic functionality that allowed us to invite people in to start playing with the tools and start giving us feedback. We started talking to people, not only on the site, but we started talking to people via podcasts that were specific to aviation. Again, if you try to boil the ocean and try to be something that everybody will love, no one will love it. So we went and we said, that's it. We're going to go to beta. It's nowhere near done. That's okay. We gave ourselves permission to build something that we loved and hoped that other people would love it too. So this is what it looks like. Those of you that are on social networking sites might see this kind of thing all the time. But this profile is very specific to pilots. This is not Facebook. This is not MySpace. This is Steve. He's a lawyer, a pilot, and a podcaster. He lives in Michigan. This is where he's based. This is what kind of airplane he flies, and these are his friends. This is important information to this audience. This is a conversation that's been going on the site about headsets. They cost some money. Everyone needs to buy one at some point in their training. Kind of a universal thing that if you haven't owned one yet, you need the experience of others to help you make decisions. What's the number one driver of purchase intent? It's not television advertising. It's not advertising of any sort. Every single piece of data we see says the number one driver of purchase intent is the referral of a friend. So what we're doing by driving this conversation, concentrating it, is we're creating an application that gathers, filters, and amplifies referral, preference, and transmits that. That's something that brands can get excited about. That's something that can create value and you can build a business around. We've gone beyond the site. You can follow myTransponder on Twitter. You can find out what's going on, who's joined, what's new. We've gone beyond just building a site and hoping people will be there. We've actively managed this community of beta testers and communicated to them by going where they are. Twitter's been very successful for us because that's where the early adopters are. The folks at Forrester talk about what's the typical life cycle of a community. This is universal. Again, whether you're interested in aviation, whether you're interested in Legos, whether you're interested in cigars, this is universal. And we can see where we're going on the map. We're here. We have a lot of work to do. But it's an exciting time. We have an application. We have enough people that are advocates for this brand that we've created over the last 9 months that we know that we're onto something. And now we can continue to build and continue to grow. So I'm almost out of time. So we're not dead yet. These are the things that I want to leave you with. Find where the passions intersect. Whatever those passions are, it's a universal truth. You'll be happier, you'll be excited about what you're doing. Find where those passions intersect and build a business around it. Don't start with, wouldn't it be cool if? A lot of lame ideas start there, and they die soon after. Start with, isn't it cool that? You need insight for that. You need to define an audience for that. It's not easy, but I promise you, if you start with that question, you'll be better off. Trust yourself to build something that you'll love. Because odds are, if you love it, other people will love it too. Insight's great. Surveys, focus groups, all those things are fantastic to help inform your decision making. But ultimately, build the best kind of application for you and your friends. Build it, make it better, iterate. Don't get stuck in all the minutiae of technology and wait for the next release and wait for the next new thing. Get out there, get it into the world, get it into the cloud, get people excited about it, and make it better as you go. And finally, don't worry about where the money comes from right away. Focus on building great experiences. Focus on that audience that you've worked so hard to define. Focus on building something that people love. Where you build a great experience, value will follow. And hopefully, you'll build a business around it. Thanks very much for your time today. I appreciate being able to be here.